Hey, what's going on, everybody? I just wanted to read you this really fascinating article that came out today from the National Association of Realtors. Every year, they put together a report on, they call it like the profile of who the home buyers and sellers are in America. I found this very fascinating and very telling, and you'll have to let me know if this is a total shock to you or if this is on par with what you'd expect. Headline here: first-time home buyers First-time home buyer share falls to historic low of 21%. We'll dive into this a little bit more, but meaning 21% of transactions right now are first-time home buyers. That's a new all-time low in our country. The median age rises to 40. Now, throughout this, you're going to see like their NAR is going to sprinkle in information about like the realtor's perspective in this. I'm going to kind of gloss over that section because it's not quite as applicable to what we're talking about. I'm more interested in the content of who the profile of these home buyers and sellers are and some of the data around that. So I'm just going to read through this a little bit and then I'll kind of make some comments along the way here. The share of first-time home buyers dropped to a record low 21%, while the typical age of first-time home buyers climbed to an all-time high of 40 years, according to the NAR's 2025 profile of home buyers and sellers. If you Google this, you can just find it. It's the article just populated today. Very easy to find. The historically low share of first-time home buyers underscores the real-world consequences of a housing market starved for affordable inventory. I totally agree with this here, and I think that if you have been at all paying attention or trying to engage with the housing market since really the pandemic, since 2020, this is going to be a very common theme. We have just not had enough inventory for the amount of folks that are looking to purchase property, and that has been an ongoing problem for the better part of 5 years now. The share of first-time home buyers in the market has contracted by 50% since 2007. The implications for the housing market are staggering. Today's first-time home buyers are building less housing wealth and will likely have fewer moves over a lifetime as a result. That's an interesting thing I hadn't really thought about, but I mean, totally makes sense. If accessibility to be able to get in and out of the housing, purchase property, and or liquidate that asset if needed, ultimately I would not be surprised if the amount of moves over the course of someone's life dramatically nosedives and we only have a few call it transfers over the course of, especially like if you were in my age bracket. I'm 27. I think if you talk to a lot of folks our age, they're not as call it transient because they're kind of call it stuck a lot of the time. For generations, access to home ownership has been the primary way Americans build wealth and the cornerstone of the American dream. Delayed or denied home ownership until age 40 instead of 30 can mean losing roughly $150,000 in equity on a typical starter home. FHA and VA programs have helped millions of Americans access home ownership, join the middle class, and create intergenerational wealth, a testament to smart government policy in support of home ownership. I totally agree with this concept. If we're talking about 10 years, the biggest thing that you might hear in like the investing space is it's not timing the market, but it's time in the market. 10 years is an awful long time to be missing out on being able to get those appreciation gains. So I think that's totally going to continue to exacerbate this problem that's already ongoing. They're making the case today we must focus on policies that address the root cause of affordability crisis, inadequate housing supply. That means both unlocking existing inventory and enabling new construction. We need solutions that encourage more owners to sell, revitalize underused properties, streamline local zoning and permitting barriers, and modernize construction methods to build more homes faster and more affordably. And these common sense reforms make homes more affordable, restore opportunity, and revive the dream of home ownership for generations to come. I think a lot of this has just been talking points for a long time now. I would love to see someone put something down on paper on what this actually means. I totally agree with the concept that we need to build more houses. I think just if you were to look at the data and look at the trends, it's not even necessarily that we're building in huge undersupply of new construction, but I think it's the content of what they're building. There's far fewer starter homes that are being built. Those options that would be, that classic maybe 3-bed, 1-bath or 3-bed, 1.5-bath starter home, less than 1,500 square feet. And it's on a slab and it's something traditional and very simple. A lot of home builders have moved away from those kind of products because they, on their line, view it as there's not as much profit to be made. And so they have moved towards the larger projects, those 4 bedrooms, the basements, the bigger footprints that ultimately they can sell for a higher margin. So we need something, and again, I'd love to see something down on paper on how we actually incentivize the builders to build more starter homes. Now, I mean, I have seen a couple of proposals, and something I've been trying to follow closely is the concept of the 3D printed homes. I'm not totally sold on these yet. I would be very interested if you or you know somebody who has taken advantage of these. They just recently in our area here in the Cincinnati and Dayton, Ohio area, just started some new communities that offer some of these 3D printed options. I would love to go visit some of these communities and see, call it the build quality of these. But ultimately, what I'm familiar with is that these can cut down the time to build and raise up the property from months to just a couple of weeks. Obviously, the less time that you're working on the project, the more like you can spit them out quicker, and then the more inventory is created. So I'm very interested in that, but I do have concerns or questions around like what's the integrity of that build. And is that something that the broader public is going to be interested in purchasing? So I would be very interested in seeing what those look like. But I totally agree with the concept here. We need more options available to meet the demand and be affordable. And then we're going to go into some of the data here. So first-time home buyer, median age 40 years old. I'm going to repeat that again. Median age for a first-time home buyer is 40 years old. Totally insane. 10% median down payment, which is the highest level recorded since 1989. I think that's also fascinating as well. I would love to see kind of why that has manifested, because there are a lot of programs that, for example, if you're a first-time home buyer, there are tons of options for like down payment assistance. Like you can do a conventional first-time home buyer loan, usually around 3% of the down payment. And so I am curious why exactly that has ticked up. Could be something related to the fact that they just recently allowed for the ability to tap into your cryptocurrency assets. I don't know if that's related to it or not. A lot of people probably in my age bracket have a lot more crypto than generations past. Very curious about that. Top sources for that down payment, just personal savings is like 60% of the time. But again, like I said, 26% of the time it's coming from financial assets like 401ks, stocks, or crypto. 22% of the time it's coming as gift from family or friends. So 1 out of 5 or almost 1 out of 4 transactions is a gift from a family member. I would be very interested to see how that stacks up historically. I wonder if that data exists somewhere. If somebody could like drop a comment on where we could find that, I'd be very interested to take a look. Repeat buyers. So these are not the first time folks. These are the folks that are repeat buyers. Median age, 62 years old. No shocker, right? It's the older folks. It's the folks that have the money to be able to do so. 23% median down payment. Thereabouts, that gold standard of 20% down is still right around that number. This is totally shocking to me. I shouldn't even say shocking, but I mean, I think it just highlights what's going on here. 30% of those were all cash buyers. I represent a lot of folks here in the Dayton, Cincinnati area, and I can totally back this up. If I were actually to go back through my past sales and my records, I probably would find that it's probably close to that number as far as cash buyers. And then when we factor in both, first-time home buyer and just repeat buyers, median age 59 years old. So the median age of somebody transacting in real estate right now is 59 years old. Again, I can probably concur with that. Most of my folks are on the older end of the spectrum or around that age. 24% have children under the age of 18 living at home now, which is an all-time low. 14% purchased a multi-generational home, down from 17% in 2024. So not a huge change in that. Top reasons cited for purchasing multi-generational home. Taking care of aging parents is 41%. I think that's a tale as old as time. That doesn't quite surprise me. All sellers. So now we're getting into the seller section. Median time in home before selling, 11 years, all-time high. Goes back to the concept we were talking about a little bit ago. People are, call it stationary or stuck because whatever the reason may be. One of the most common, call it rebuttals or objections that I get when I'm talking with potential clients is I have a phenomenal interest rate that I got when I refinanced during COVID, and I would hate to lose that 2.75% interest rate. So, I mean, is that part of the problem? Maybe. But in any case, people are staying where they are for long. Median distance move, 30 miles down from 35 miles last year. Not a whole lot of change, right? Basically the same people are staying where they are. 50% purchased a newer home, 34% purchased a larger home. So those people that are selling are still upsizing about half the time. And then, like I said, this is from the NAR, so they're just going to highlight the use of real estate agents. What I will tell you is that all of these numbers kind of detailed here is pretty much what's been on par for the past couple of years. So 88% of the time, home buyers are using an agent. 92% of the time, buyers who previously purchased a home, they're going to rely on an agent. 91% of the time, they would use their agent again. 91% of the time, sellers used an agent, which equals the highest percentage on record. So, I mean, but if you were to look at the data, it's about that high 80s, low 90s. It's been that way for several years now. Then it kind of gets into the methodology there. So that kind of sums up the article there. I would be very interested to hear what your thoughts and feedback are after kind of hearing some of those statistics. Is that in line with what you were expecting? Is that totally a shocker? To me, talking with a lot of folks day in and day out, that does not surprise me one bit. And it just, again, highlights the need of, we need actual thoughts down on paper. We need policy change on what this actually looks like so that we actually can get folks out of this stuck position that we're in, and that we can get more folks into home ownership, because that has been historically the most consistent way to build generational wealth and get the middle class lifestyle here in America. And if we lose sight of that, then we're going to have really big problems on our hands, and we're going to be in uncharted waters. So let me know what your thoughts are. We'd love to connect with you. Again, my name is Trevor. I'm a real estate professional here in the Cincinnati, Dayton, Ohio area. I would love to connect with you more. You're welcome to text me. My phone number is 937-888-2099. That'll be in the comments in the description as well. But I would love to connect with you. Let me know what your thoughts are, and I will see you on the next one.